it will vote them up on the list of kind of which ones are the priority. And if you have more that you want to add to that, feel free to do that as well. I have it, my husband let me borrow his tablet so that I can see it on another screen, so that we can kind of make sure we're getting to the questions that people want to hear in it, because we only get an hour together this evening on this. So, and I'm going to keep on admitting people. Hey, Brittany, are you actually on? Brittany Downing, are you actually on? Because it says you're joining, but then I also can see your name.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. It said it was joining and it was just spinning for a long time. So I wanted to make sure you got in.
Okay. Yeah, I tried getting in through, yeah, it was doing weird things, but yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Oh, keep on admitting. We'll probably give it to 5 after, because it looks like there keep on being people that pop on. So thank you all for your patience. There's enough of you that you're onto 2 pages on the gallery screen now, which is really fun. So okay, I think we're going to get started, and Kat and Jenna, if you guys can keep on approving people as they pop on. Welcome this evening to the first full day of the 2020 Phi Sigma Rho virtual conference. So yay, exciting. And thank you for working through all the technology joys with all of us. We're all learning on this together, for sure on this. And the roundtable, I have a slide at the end to kind of highlight some of the next 3 days of sessions. But I didn't want to create a whole lot of slides, because this is a time for all of you to share your ideas and get your questions answered. And I know we all get the joy of sitting and watching slides all day long at work. So I didn't think we needed more of that. So originally I was thinking of having everyone go and introduce themselves, but since we have 30 people on the call, which is amazing, that's going to take a long time. So I'll briefly introduce myself so you guys know who I am. And then maybe when you introduce, like when you ask a question or you make a comment, if you can quickly say your name and what chapter you're from, and anything else that we should briefly know about you with your answer, if that works for everyone. So my name is Mary Beth White. I am from the Sigma chapter at Oregon State, and I just took on the VP of Alumni Affairs position about 2 months ago from Jenna. Jenna is also on the call, and she's moved over to the VP of Expansion role. So I asked her to be on tonight just in case there's any questions that I can't answer, but she can answer, which is very helpful. And she has a very sweet kitty that joins her on every call too, which is very funny in this. So before this, I was a regional field director for 4 years. And I've also been a colony educator and an alumni association chair. So I've done lots of different volunteer roles inside of Phi Sigma Rho. And then my day job, I work as an industrial engineer at Boeing's fabrication plant in Portland, Oregon. So that's just a teeny bit about me. And then we're going to dive into questions. So the number one question that I can see currently is, how can I actively or stay actively involved in the sorority both my chapter and the national organization as an alumni. And oh, I should also say, I believe Kat has started the recording. So we are recording this session so that if someone can't attend, they can see this later. So just so you all know, it's being recorded. So does anyone want to hop in and say how they have actively stayed involved and any recommendations?
This is Meredith. I'm from the Alpha Gamma University of Louisville Alumni Association chapter. I know one of the things that I've done, we have our like Greek Sing event. So I was our chair at one year, so I kind of come in every year and just kind of help them with that as an active. It's usually I kind of sometimes help with the planning, but come in and when they start freaking out closer to the event, calm some nerves and like, you know, help clean up some stuff. But that's how I've gotten to know a lot of like the incoming like freshmen and sophomores who were not there when I graduated. That's just a small thing that I like to do, and it's pretty fun.
I love that you step in when they're freaking out part of it as well. That's an important part of being an alum. Other people?
I'll hop in. So I'm Stephanie Gagliardi, for those who don't know me. I'm from the Yukon Theta chapter. And I think my thoughts on this are, it's a lot easier, I think, when you're first out of school to get back and stay involved. I know I was way more involved with both national Phi Sigma Rho and my local chapter right out of school. I know like when I started my job, things were a little slow. So I was emailing people and figuring out how I could get involved in other things to kind of keep myself busy. But I think the struggle happens, you know, a couple years out when life starts to get a little bit crazier. You're more established in your job. You might be getting married or having children or just doing other things, or maybe you move away from your local chapter if you were local before. So I think that's where I've been struggling recently, is more how to get back involved. Because it's easy when you're just graduating, you still know some of the actives. Maybe you've attended a conference or a convention in person, so you might know girls from other chapters. So you may now have more time to be involved nationally. But again, as you get older and get further away from being an active member, I find that it gets a little bit more challenging to stay involved, at least at the level that maybe you were first out of school.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'll jump in, Stephanie. I really appreciated the opportunity for me to kind of like piggyback on other alumni that were involved. So I have stayed involved other than like a 2-year break right out of school for, when did I graduate? 6 years now. So for the past 4 years, I feel like I've been pretty involved. But most of my involvement has been at the alumni level. So involved with the Alumni Association or, you know, providing context or feedback to actives when requested as an alumni. So it was really challenging. I tried to participate in retreat last year, and it was really hard to go back in not knowing anybody. And I think having some sort of structured system where you're always piggybacking on somebody who's already there. So if you as an alumni know an alumni who's involved, to kind of like follow in their footsteps. And the other side of that is if you're an alum who is getting involved, bring somebody with you. And I think that can really help bridge that gap.
I'd like to build off of what Tina said. My name's Emma. I'm in the Sigma chapter as well, so OSU with Tina and Mary Beth. And recently, Tina and Brittany, who is actually also on this call too, they did a really good job in that during winter break, we had planned, our Alumni Association does monthly events, and they had planned an Oregon Zoo lights basically they just do Christmas lights in the winter at the zoo. But what we did was actually also posted on the actives page and said, hey, for anyone that's in Portland at home, you know, you guys can come join us. And I didn't go, but I think that it's a good idea of a way that's a little less informal so that people can actually talk. And it's not like when you go to rituals and you're specifically having to do things and then everyone just leaves immediately to go have lunch or do homework or whatever. So that's one thing, is if you can maybe plan something with actives that's not an actual official FIRO event.
So I'll talk in the sense that there are opportunities of every shape and size, and it's been hit in the app as well, in the questions on the feed. So for everything from Tina was the Resumania director for the last Resumania, and I know I personally reviewed one resume, and it took me one evening after work, and that's really helpful as a way for an alum to get involved. Or taking on, obviously, a RFD role or something else on a national level, or getting involved in your local alumni association. And as Tina mentioned in the comments, if you don't have a local alumni association or a regional organization, let me know and I can totally help you get that started for your chapter as well. But as we unless we have anyone else want to comment on kind of the how to get involved, how to stay involved.
I wanted to kind of jump in on it. So I'm Brittany, the other Sigma chapter alumni. So yeah, so the four of us have actually worked a lot together. And I think us working together has also really helped get my involvement with it. So Emma and I, we did like 2 positions together as well as actives. And so I think Emma and myself are kind of younger and still have that connection to the actives a little more so than Tina and Mary Beth did. So we kind of helped act as a bridge between our older alumni and our actives. As Tina said, you know, once years go by, you're like, it's hard to get back in and, you know, talk with these girls that you haven't been around. So we tried to be that bridge for our actives and our alumni. And we've also tried to work on creating an adulting 101 course. So we have an alumni who's a financial advisor, and she gave a presentation and answered any questions that our actives had related to, you know, how do I buy a house? How do I deal with loans? How do I do this? So we've tried to kind of also tailor like with our new graduates and giving them kind of resources as they enter the post-graduation life, so that way they have you know, different ideas on how to approach new challenges, and then also kind of build that relationship. So then and I'm one of our events chairs, so I help do monthly events, and with COVID we've been doing a lot of remote events, so our participation has actually gone up. So it's been pretty cool to grab our alumni that are out in a different state who normally can't attend our events. So now we've been able to get a lot more people involved. So yeah, there's still a lot of I think work that needs to be done with you know, reaching out to some of our sisters that are living out of state and we have lost a little bit of touch with, but yeah. I did see someone said what kind of remote events we're doing. We recently, this past weekend, we did a cooking class. So we sent out a poll and let people choose what kind of meal they wanted to do. And one of our alumni sent out different recipes for us, and it was like her grandma's recipe and her mom's recipe. So she walked us through it and we were all cooking together. We've also done some Netflix events, and we did a wine and paint night. So we watched the YouTube instructor and did a painting with her while also on the Zoom chat with each other and showed each other our paintings. So that's a few things we've done. And we've also done a book trade. So I help pair different girls and they'll trade books every 3 or 6 months. Sometimes send a little treat or something. So another way to try and get some people connected that don't normally, communicate with each other. So yeah.
And that actually kind of leads perfectly into the top 2 questions, which are, what are your best alumni events, and how do you engage? The second question is, how do you engage alumni that are all over the country? So great job, Brittany, of previewing the question. Are there other people that have great ideas for alumni events that have been well attended and that are favorites that get done year after year, both in person or virtual?
Hi, Mary. This is Melanie Larson. I want to jump in and actually fly back to the last question real quick, just because
Oh yeah, no problem.
my involvement has been so opposite of what everyone else has said, in that I moved to a new city right after graduation. I moved to Boston, which had a very small FIRO presence, if not any really. And then I jumped into helping being Northeastern's colony educator, and now I'm MIT's. And then I'm also helping with the Beta Chapter Alumni Association as well, but it more helped me in a sense where instead of piggybacking off someone else, I really was able to stay involved because I knew no one else in the Boston area. So FIRO was kind of that honing signal that I could go back to. And I just found those opportunities through like the Facebook pages, like the Nationals pages. They were emailing and posting about things, and I was like, hey, I'm interested. And that allowed me to really get involved, and like I know and I'm really close with a lot of the girls now, so it's just a very different approach to staying involved.
Thank you, Melanie. You're getting more and more FIROs in the Boston area now, though. So
yes. Well, they're coming in.
So can I just piggyback on what Melanie said really quick?
Absolutely.
As well. So I moved to the Boston area 17 years ago when there was literally like 3 of us. And there was really no one there, from a FIRO perspective. And it was really hard to start a chapter for a lot of different reasons that are no longer an issue anymore. But I think one of the ways that I encourage people to reach out is to look at what you're good at and then see how your skills can benefit the sorority. Because I think there are a lot of volunteer, opportunities out there, but there are a lot of things that we need help with that we maybe don't always put a volunteer position out. We don't create one right away. So I think if there's something that you're really passionate about and that you really want to get involved in, and you just see that there's a need for it, that, a good way to get involved is to reach out to someone and say, hey, I noticed that we really, are lacking in this area, and I have a lot of skills and I have a passion for this.
We always take people that would like to take on a project.
This is Jenna. I'm the VP of Expansion. So the Toledo Alumni Association, which I didn't plan these, but there were 2 events that turned out really well and fun. So the first one was last year during Songfest, which is like our big spring event. All of the actives, we have an active and alumni group, and all of the actives were posting, and they were giving us live updates on their like live fundraising. And so it got all of us involved, and we were all live streaming the event and donating money to try and get them to win the prize. So that was really fun to tie in with the actives. And then they also just recently did a Harry Potter watch party. And that was really fun for everyone who attended that too. So those were 2 kind of fun remote things that people had a good time with.
Hi, this is Rebecca Palmer from the Purdue Alpha chapter. Tying off of the idea of incorporating some with the actives and the idea of being able to be kind of all over the place, and especially now with COVID. One thing that we had that was really nice was we actually, as an active, were paired up with an alumna, and it was part of our expectations every semester to communicate with them a couple times and just kind of update them on the chapter, what was happening, keep them in the know. And some of those relationships, that was kind of all it was, but some of them really blossomed into finding other people that were previous in your family line. or other relationships. And so it was just a really easy way to quickly touch base, and it was up to the pair how they wanted to communicate. Some people were really close and they started Snapchatting each other. Some people it was snail mail. Some people it was email, but it just depended on the relationship. But it was a nice way to like keep alumni that didn't want to be super involved or didn't have the bandwidth to be able to have them like a little plugged into the chapter.
I'll kind of piggyback on that. It was something similar that Oregon State does that I started because I didn't like the fact that everyone didn't know their alpha member of their family line. I'm probably one of the last ones that's really involved that got to meet that alpha class. And so we actually now collect every year now for probably 12 years. We send out an email to the family lines and they write letters to the new members that are joining. And so, and we collect them via email or mailed copy, and then they get them in an envelope, and their family tree is included in their envelope with like an ancestral family tree where it's like your great, 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 great sister or grandbig kind of thing. And it has their full family line, and then they can see who they wrote letters, and we make sure each candidate gets like, or I guess new member gets at least 2 letters, but some families now get, like Tina's family, like half the family line mails letters in, which is really special. It gets them a chance to connect. And then also the alumni actually know who's growing and how their family lines are growing. And it's kind of become a tradition and an expectation that these letters show up at initiation every year at this point. So it's just a fun little way of staying connected.
On a just like an alumni association, so obviously we're Alpha Gamma, we're pretty new on our alumni association. We've gotten a lot bigger, but there's not that many of us. So we've been struggling to engage our alumni. In a lot of the like alpha class and then like my class, and no one kind of in between. So we started just putting out like polls in the GroupMe of what people are interested in. And the biggest thing right now, it's kind of embarrassing, but I'm also into it, is a Twilight book club, because the new Midnight Sun book just came out. So we've had a bunch of people. We started a GroupMe. There's like 25 people in the GroupMe, which is almost our entire association. Just like, you know, we're like bringing back like childhood memories and then reading the books and talking about it from an adult perspective of like, what the heck were we thinking? But it's actually gotten like really big, and like people are really excited about it. We had to postpone a book club once and like people freaked out. So like right now we're just trying to kind of poll everybody and just see what they want. And right now we want Twilight.
I'll go ahead and kind of, oh, my hair is doing some things. I'll jump in and on your book club. So we've kind of done that similar book trading, and I've thought about, because right now I just kind of pair them up, send it to them, and I go, there you go. And I've kind of thought about, you know, what it would look like if we did, you know, like one book and did those discussions. So do you have it just like on, you said you use GroupMe, and do you guys just get on like once a month, or like kind of how do you structure that?
Yeah, so for the Twilight book club, since there's like the 4 books, we did about every 2 weeks. They're pretty easy books. And then we do, so we just have the GroupMe just to kind of like updates. If you see a funny meme or the TikTok or whatever it is, I feel old saying that. But then we do like a Zoom, or I guess we've been doing like Facebook video. I don't know, someone else sets that part up. So just like we've been doing like Sunday nights at like 8 o'clock, just kind of get together for like an hour. It's pretty unstructured, so it ends up just kind of boiling down into not as big into the book. But I think if you did a more quality book, you could have a more structured thing. But yeah, Zoom has been working great. And then we've had there's a couple people who like moved to Florida and stuff, so they've been able, and they're really excited to be interacting because they can't come to a lot of our events, obviously, in Kentucky.
That's awesome. I like that. Yeah, we have been doing similar to your survey. We send out every year annual participation survey for our Alumni Association for our monthly events that we do. And kind of similarly, we try to poll on different events, and I just say like 1 to 5, you know, are you interested or not on going on a coffee date or doing this? So that's one thing we've done too, to try and, you know, reach out to more people and make sure that everyone's getting their interests, you know, served, and so everyone can do what they want to do.
And on the book topic in the Q&As, there is, I didn't know this, Gabby posted a link in the question about, are there any book lovers and what is your favorite genre? And there's a whole bunch of very interesting conversation around that. But I didn't know that there's a Firo Reads Facebook group. So the link is in the questions on the Whova app. But yeah, Gabby says it was a recently added. I encourage everyone to join. So if you're looking for book recommendations, there's a Firo group for that. And I didn't even know that. So learned something new. Other events that go well, or are we ready to move on to the next question? I'll say one more in-person event that we've now done a lot of years. Obviously it's not going to happen this summer, is we do a family picnic. So our spouses and kids can come, because I don't know, my husband, a lot of his friends are Firos too. And so when I have an event and he doesn't get to come, he's kind of sad, because he wants to see all my friends, and even some of their husbands or spouses or partners have become his friends. And so he's like, you mean you're having happy hour and I can't come? And I'm like, yeah, it's sisters only this time. And he's like, oh, okay. So I think that's also fun to be able to like include making something that's family friendly or at a park that kids can come along as well, which is really fun. And it encourages your older alum to come that may have kids that are in tow. Any other ideas? Okay, I think the next question we'll throw it to, and we've kind of started touching on this, but how do you get an active chapter to engage with their alumni group? For context, we've asked the actives what they like to see gain from the alumni group, and they have had no ideas.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but we have been working really hard. Our Alumni Association and Active chapter was kind of butting heads a lot towards the end of last year, so we're working to smooth over. So one of the things that we did, our Active chapter kind of was like, oh yeah, we love having the actives here, but we don't really know what we want you to do. So one of the things we're trying to do is have kind of 2 alumni advisors. So one is kind of elected through the Alumni Association, the board, and one is elected through the chapter, and they work together. It happens to be me and my cousin. Just kind of happened to work out that way. So we get along great, but that way we have kind of 2 avenues for the actives to kind of interact with the alumni, and then we kind of, sometimes we get 2 different stories, or 2 different sides. So then we can kind of work together to either smooth things over, but it just like adds just an extra connection. And then the actives feel that they're somewhat a part of what the association's doing, and then we feel like we're a part of them. So far, so good. Only been a couple months though.
This is Rebecca. I'm from the Lambda chapter. Just a follow-up question for you, Meredith. What do your alumni advisors actually do? How do they support? Like, what are they doing?
So the main thing we're supposed to be doing is just like being there when requested and help when they ask for our help. Luckily, they haven't really needed us too much. So we try to go to, this is kind of before COVID, but we would try to go to about a meeting, like one like chapter meeting every month or so, go to all the rituals. I reached out and asked them like the things that they like seeing us at. So we try to go to like one day of recruitment, one day of our like I week. And then there's just select events. Like sometimes like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a hot chocolate in the suite. And so I'll text and be like, hey, like I'm gonna show up if it's an open invitation. And they said that they're really excited that we just kind of show up to events, and that way we get to know what's going on. This is how I met all of our like newest initiates, which is really cool. And they actually thought I was like a junior, that's pretty fun. I like that. But,
yeah, that's always great.
I'm trying to balance the like showing up to the fun things and then also being the kind of professional ritual type person too.
Not that you asked, but Oregon State for alumni advisors, we also too, we try to shoot for at least 2 times a term. We're on the quarter system at Oregon State, so we try to do 2 times a quarter, so over 10 weeks, where we check in too with all of our officers. So we have 3 alumni advisors. It's a little overkill, and we basically divvy up all the positions to the advisors, and then they're kind of in charge of that position. And so then they have one person who they can really go to and hopefully develop a connection with. And we ask them, like, what are your personal goals in the sorority? Like, is there something you specifically want to accomplish with this? Like, what do you think you want to do in the future? How can we help you? Maybe you want to run for president in a year, stuff like that. So that way it's not always like, oh, do you need help? Because a lot of times they don't. And a lot of times too, especially the non-exec positions are like, oh, you guys aren't here for us, you're here for president and standards. So that's been one way that we've kind of gotten some of the non-exec positions to be more involved with our alumni advisors.
And getting them to share information when it's not just something's exploding. So, right, like I want them to share, and this was when I was a regional field director too. The presidents would text me when things are going wrong, but I was like, can you tell me when things are going really well too? Because like we want to celebrate those things. So that regular check-in that Emma is talking about, like it lets you say, what were the things that have gone really well in the last month? And then saying, how can we build on that versus just like, these people are arguing, it's not working, right? And how do I deal with interpersonal conflict? Which is a lot of being an alumni advisor. It really is. But it's really fun to see them think through and be able to celebrate their own successes and be able to highlight those too.
I'll jump in. Over my years of being in FIRO, I also served as Beta's alumni advisor. And one day, there was nothing wrong. One time there was stuff wrong, but everybody couldn't meet. And then everybody didn't feel comfortable airing out whatever that needed to be aired out. So what I did was I gave them the opportunity to meet with me. I think it was with Skype or something like that. Whatever the forerunner was to Zoom. And they would call me, each one would call, and we would talk about whatever we need to talk about, aired it out, made sure everybody was back, bring back everybody back to wholeness. And so I was able to establish a rapport one-on-one with each sister. And so that was cool. And then we were able to come up with some solutions where everybody could coexist, and set a baseline. Then after that, I remember going over to the house and I couldn't parallel park. And so we were laughing and I just brought over tea, right? And tea, and we sat there, and I brought tea in my tea kettle, and we sat down and talked about the challenges that some of the sisters were having with their parents, not understanding that they were no longer little girls, right? And the time commitment. And I gave them stories out of my life, and I said, this is not anything new. And I gave them stories out of my life and had them cracking up screaming, right? And just letting them understand that I was there for them and I was able to, be a resource. And I always told them, I'm not coming to everything. I'll come when you all need me, and then I will leave shortly thereafter because old people need to know when to go home. And so, I would come to, the orchid ball, show up, take pictures, hang out, have dinner. And I said, oh, I know y'all want to dance and do what you got to do. I'm out, And so, they let me hang out, but I also don't linger. And, what I always let them know is that I'm not trying to be your mother, but I am a resource. And I've had them over at my house one time, and just do fun stuff. And I just will always let them know that I can relate to a whole lot of stuff, right? And sometimes they just need somebody else to understand outside their parents. And I got to meet parents, and after they figured out who I was, and I was, they're like, oh, so they felt comfortable that there was somebody sane in Columbus looking out for their kids, their grown kids, right? But those, I've always made myself available to whatever the need was. And then but through that relationship, I also encourage the young ladies to take on more responsibilities within the sorority. And that's how I met Janelle, and me and Janelle are still friends. And there's a whole line, right? So I would just give them some history about Beta and some of the of course I have original paraphernalia, right? And so I gave my lavalier to one young lady, and so it rotated around. And then I had my first Firo tote bag, and so somebody else got that out my family, so we just rotated things around. So I gave it in love, and so now they give it to whomever. I don't even know if the thing still exists, but still,
They do. They start to pass around.
Yeah, so and so that's what I've done, and like I always tell them, I'm a busy woman. I'm not trying to take over. I'm here as a resource. And, and we all have growing pains, right? So, I just try to be available, say what I got to say. And I'm saying, deuces, I'm out. And I leave and I go home.
So that actually leads into, I think, the next kind of perfect question to that is, as the actives transition to alum, what's your transition process to transition those members successfully from being actives to alumni? Does anyone have some good rituals for that, and to make sure that they don't just fall off the radar? Because I know that's a challenge.
I think they have like a bridging ceremony now that's like an actual ritual, but from like another standpoint, if you're a set up alumni organization, I think one of the biggest thing is working with those chapter members to kind of A, introduce who you are, and then B, making sure you're getting updated contact information, because I know like a lot of people when they graduate, they stop using their university email, and that's probably the one that the sorority has on record or the chapter has on record. So just trying to get that active contact information, so after they leave the chapter, you can still get a hold of them or contact them about what's going on with your chapter. I think from there, some people are gonna want to be involved, and some people might just need a break from it, want to kind of separate, want to kind of start something new. And it's just kind of being an understanding about what people want, because you're going to have people that want to volunteer, or some people that just want the social stuff, and just having those different options available for the different people involved, I think is really important.
And Chrissy, who's actually a small plug, she has a session later on this next week about how to set up a alum regional organization, because she's a very successful one in the Houston area. But she actually put a comment on this, that they actually, very similar to what you're saying, Janelle, of saying collecting addresses, but they go and actually, once they have the addresses and emails and phone numbers from the graduates, they actually send an email or a card congratulating them, and then giving them information about the Alumni Association and how to stay involved. I know we've attempted to do emails before, but I love the idea of actually sending like snail mail, like congratulations to them, because how many times do you not get fun mail? And fun mail is so good. So I just wanted to share her comment, since I know she's not on the call tonight. So other ideas that have worked?
I know for Oregon State, we kind of do a similar thing with our communications chair on the alumni board. She'll reach out to all of the graduating seniors, and she also connects with our president or of the actives, or their alumni chair, one of those. But either one, she's getting that contact information from them, and that way we can, yes, make sure that we're getting that email that they're going to prefer as opposed to their university email. And then we also just changed where we're sending out the annual participation survey for our social events. We're sending it out now in July, so that way we can catch those recent graduates. So that way they don't have 6 months going by without hearing anything from us. And I know maybe Emma can speak more to this, but I know we're trying to set up kind of like a Pyramid Pal program, so kind of like a mentorship program where we would pair a graduating senior with an alumni who's kind of a point of contact for any questions they have for professional growth, personal growth, the sorority, anything really. So that's a few things we've tried to do to also kind of help bridge that transition and make it a little more smooth for them.
You read my mind, Brittany. I was going to say that if you didn't. It's also too another good way, going all the way back to the beginning. It's also another way that's good to get alumni involved who maybe might not be in the area. So like we made a post on our alumni Facebook page that said, hey, what alumni would be interested in participating. You don't have to meet up in person. It's going to be, email, Snapchat, however you want. And that was really cool because we got people who volunteered who we were like, wow, I haven't heard from this alum in 3 years. So it works on both ends, that it can help kind of get the actives tied into the alumni community, but then it also can bring older alumni back in as well.
And you guys kind of did some brainstorming. I should say we did, I guess, but some brainstorming with specific requests or career trajectories from the actives, and kind of doing some brainstorming and reaching out to specific alumni who we thought might be a good pairing as well. So like, I think we had someone that was going on a medical school kind of track. And so it's like, oh, do we know someone who might be actually the right fit for this as well? And there's nothing like your sister who's also your friend texting you specifically and asking you and inviting you to go to something versus just a blasted email. So I think that's another way to kind of make sure if you want someone engaged, contact them directly. And that's always helped us too. Any other active to alum transition ideas?
I just have a question within this question. So one of the issues that we're having is just kind of like burnout after senior year, especially a lot of the girls who are either just frustrated with how things are going or have just done everything, go, 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 go. They finally graduate and they just like want a break. And like, I was curious if anyone has any thing that they have done to kind of show that it's not really like the Alumni Association isn't necessarily it's not the sorority. It's not necessarily like the same go, go, go. It's a little more laid back. But sometimes there are a couple that are like, oh, I just need a year off. And then we just never hear from them again.
So one of the things that we do, and I know it's been mentioned a couple times, but we have that survey that goes out every year. In the survey, there's an opt-out option, and it's annual. So you can kind of take that year or two off, and you don't necessarily get like the monthly event emails. You still get some of the other emails regarding like voting that are intended to catch the whole group, but it really is a back burner. And then every year when we resend the survey, we send it to everybody. So you can opt out annually, but it also gives you that key point to re-engage if you decide, like I did 2 years out, like, oh, I actually do want to get back involved. It was an easy way to do that.
I think also providing a bunch of different opportunities and like letting them know that they don't have to go to every single one. So like with us having those monthly events, some people choose to go to maybe 2 a year, and that's totally fine. And I think, communicating that to your sisters that, even if you're not able to make it to like all the events, like, we're not expecting you to, just, showing up here and there when you can is great. And, we love to, connect with our sisters and see how they're doing and check in with them. And, you know, life totally gets busy. So if they can find that time that squeezes in, that's great. But if not, you know, that's fine too. So I think just kind of reassuring your sisters that, you know, they're not obligated to do everything. So they can kind of do it at their own pace.
That maybe this is another benefit of regional alumni groups, because I think it's easier maybe to stay out of the drama. Like maybe I wouldn't necessarily want to go back to my chapter right away if I needed a little bit of a break, because, you know, a lot of things happen and you know all the people. Maybe it's easier with a lot of people moving out of the area anyway into a new area. I really do think that a real opportunity for us is regional alumni groups, and I know Chrissy's going to talk about it on another day. But it goes to a lot of things that we've talked about as well, like Kellen commented, like the family picnic's a great idea. Well, to be honest, it would be very hard for me to go to a family picnic in Indiana. I live in New Jersey, but for me to go back to Purdue for that is hard. I try to do it when I can. But if there were more local events, I would love to be involved in that. And honestly, I would love to visit the chapters around me and help them and support them. You know, I just think it would benefit us to kind of almost change our mindset a little bit, because we are kind of hooked into what chapter are you from. But you know, we're all Phiros, and I would love to be able to walk into, fortunately, I have been able to walk into other campuses and feel like, you know, I'm welcome, but it should be that way for everyone. And we should be able to stop in at Orchid Ball if we want to, you know, do something a little closer to our home. And I also think it's a way for newer grads probably to still feel connected in a new area. So I can't say enough that I really think that regional groups are going to be a really important thing as we move forward.
No, I have to say I agree, only because I've seen the model work with the National Society of Black Engineers, because, you know, we got students from different universities and colleges across the, you know, the United States, right? So, but when we graduate, we may not stay with that same chapter. So we're already divided up in regions anyway, but you might not stay in region 4, which is like Purdue, Ohio State, et cetera, right? You might not stay there for your professional life. So when we transition to another state, like out in California, that's region 6. So we have a region 6 professionals, you know, NSBE professionals. So we still get that level of connectivity. So we have 6 regions of professionals. So now I'm in region 2, but just because I'm from region 4, it doesn't exclude me from being in region 2, because, you know, we're all spread out, and that's still our way of connecting and still doing our professional service. And then that helps the college students as well, because just like you all are saying, like we're already discussing, you may not be in the same town where you went to college. So you still want to be active even as an alumni, right? Because there's students still need help, right? Wherever we find ourselves. So that will strengthen, if we seriously consider this model, it will ensure the longevity and the connectivity for the sorority. So then when we go to conventions and stuff and conferences, we don't feel like the old people at the table per se, right? And then you have more connections, only because we're spreading ourselves out and integrating ourselves, you know, more like this instead of stovepipe. Because I mean, I know people from everywhere, only because of, you know, because we're NSBE professionals, right? So I know people from everywhere. It's just something to consider. It works, right? It just works. And because, like, again, even if you're at Bowen and you went to Purdue, and then you work at Bowen and you went to Oregon State, but what's the commonality, right? The affinity is Phi Sigma Rho. So it only helps it just helped. So I'm done talking.
I love the regional groups too. I know for us, we have a lot of girls from Oregon State either go to, well, a lot of us are either from Portland and go back to Portland. Me, I'm actually from California, but I ended up in Portland. And we also have a lot of girls that have ended up in Seattle. And so a lot of our Sigma chapter alumni in Seattle, I believe, have also connected with their Seattle Facebook group. And last summer, we actually tried to do a meetup between our Seattle sisters and our Portland sisters halfway, and we did a hike one day. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but we've also kind of thrown out the idea of also doing more connections with our Seattle group, so that way we can not only, you know, stay connected with our Sigma chapter sisters, but also meet those other sisters that are living in the Seattle area. And I know I recently got to, I met Abby at our Light the Night because she lives here in Portland too, and I was like, oh, this is great. So we've also been able to meet another sister, I forget which chapter she's from, but she lives out a little bit near Corvallis, and she has a winery out there, invited a group together, and we had a wine tasting day for a chapter and or for a social, and we got to meet her, who is another sister, not from our local chapter, but you know, she lived in the region. So it was great to meet you know, these other sisters with these you know, they weren't from our local chapter, but it was great. So yeah.
This is Jenna. So as you guys heard, I transitioned out of VP of Alumni Affairs, but one of the things that National Council worked on is we actually made it a lot easier for our regional groups to form. So originally there was a lot of requirements about it. So now it's actually, all you really need is a person who wants to start it. And you can use our national bylaws as your bylaws. So it's definitely something I think we know we want to move in that direction. I don't know if Mary Beth wants to add to that.
Nope, just if you're wanting to start one, reach out to me and I can see if we already have one in the area that you may not know about. Jenna did a great job of getting all a list of the different Facebook groups and that we currently have and we know about. If you have one that I may not know about, please let me know. And then we can connect you to that person. It may, in some cases, I know one of the questions was there used to be an active group in area, but it's no longer that active. And if you have the passion to reactivate it, we would love for you to do that and then to go from there. So I just need your contact information and what the area is. And then we have a kind of a master list to be able to connect people to those groups. So, and yes, absolutely, please stay tuned next week if you can call into Chrissy's session on what they're doing in Houston with their regional organization. And if you can't tune in, it'll be recorded as well, so you'll be able to listen to it later. So with that, we have 5 minutes left in our call tonight. Is there any other pressing questions or comments that we want to leave it with? If not, I have, what is my preferred question or method of contacting for those notes as far as where things are, Camille?
Yeah, you're saying like, oh, if you like want to start one, or if you want to know where it is, like, should I be Facebook messaging you? I mean, I know I'm friends with you on Facebook, but I don't know if everybody else is.
One, you always can friend me on Facebook, and I'll totally accept your friendship request. But VP, my email address is VP of Alumni Affairs at phisigmro.org, and then I can help connect you to if there is a group in your region or not, and how to start one. And that goes for alumni associations as well. The only requirement to be an active alumni association at this point is to vote on or select a chairperson and to let me know who that chairperson is. And then from there, you're welcome to go and make your bylaws. But the main thing is we need a contact person to be considered active for as far as voting wise goes.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
Just one thing along that line. So if we have these regional groups, it's great, but one thing we were talking about is connecting with the local chapters. So I think maybe for now, if like the RFDs could be made aware of what groups are in the area, and maybe they could kind of be that channel to say, oh, hey, Rutgers, why don't you need help? Why don't you reach out to the New York, New Jersey regional group if you can't get your alumni? So just a way to start that connection, because I know regional groups, we are doing things socially, which is awesome, but let's try to connect them to the chapters too that are in the area.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. There's another question in the chat, and I don't know, Jenna, if you may know this, but the question is there a way to know how many alumni may live within a certain radius of a city? For example, I'm the closest geographically to the Buffalo chapter, but I went to UConn. I know a few people in the area, but not sure if there might be more that I could be reaching out to from a regional perspective. I don't know if we have that. Do you know, Jenna? Or anyone else?
I don't, so I believe that capability is actually coming on the new FIRO portal, which hopefully everyone has received a link to sign up, and we encourage everyone to, but I believe that if you opt in, you can actually search for sisters. I haven't played with it a lot to know exactly what its capabilities are, but I think that is either coming or already there.
Tina's nodding her head yes, so.
Yeah, I went in there and poked around a little bit. The one thing is that when you update your personal information, you have the option to opt out of that visibility. And if, for example, you're somebody who's not involved a lot, if you opt out and then don't go back in and opt in later, like you may not realize you're not getting messages and not showing up in that feed. So I don't know if there's another way to have like a back end to that where somebody like Mary Beth, like somebody in your role could go in and like check in on those people every few years. Like, I don't know if that's a functionality that's possible.
That's a good idea to look into. So two things. One, that you will be getting feedback. So if you go into the Whova app homepage, there's a session feedback for the session. Kat says it can be found under the surveys on the homepage. It's very simple, just saying kind of who you are so we know what chapters are represented on the call, and then feedback for future roundtables for alumni, including do we want to do these outside of just conference and convention? So would they be useful to be done on a different frequency? Let me know on those comments. Do we want to do a whole hour just on events? I'm definitely open to that, especially with COVID, because we can't be physically together. I know idea sharing becomes even harder. So any and all feedback is welcome in that, so we can work on those activities. And last but not least, I'm gonna attempt to share my screen. Maybe. I think you guys should be able to all see this. So I didn't go through the whole schedule, but just some highlights in the next few days. Please continue to attend sessions. I'm really excited to see how many people are registered and how many people are on the call tonight. So tomorrow there's one of the diversity and inclusion sessions that Mary's hosting called Reach Out and Touch. There's an opportunity for that on Friday and Saturday. Our keynote speaker is speaking tomorrow on confidence building hacks for women in engineering, or women in engineering students and new grads. We do have a social tomorrow night to watch Hidden Figures via a watch party, so we can chat during the movie. And then on Saturday, again, that diversity and inclusion, growth mindset, and then living life post-graduation. And then on Sunday, prioritizing your work, foundation update, and then the opening session and the legislative session are that afternoon, evening. And that's just the next 3 days, and then it continues on from there. So I'm very excited to be kicking this off and to see you all on. If you have other alumni who may not know about this yet, and if you want to get them back engaged, send them a text, encourage them to sign on and sign up for this. It's kind of a unique opportunity because we aren't having to travel. For some people that have maybe never attended a conference or convention to be able to attend this time around. So thank you all so much, and you all have a wonderful evening if there's nothing else.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Mary
much.
Beth. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great job, Mary Beth.
Thanks, Kat.